Hi, Unetta. I'm Rick in Taiwan. Nice to meet you, and thank you for this opportunity to talk to you and get your critiques for It's Our Turn. I'm passionate about this project because I've been writing for about 15 years and I've never had a problem creating a story world or some unique characters, but I've had constant problems creating believable conflict and conflict that would sustain a movie for 2 hours and certainly that would sustain a television series for 60 episodes. And I think I finally have found this, and I have found a vehicle that I can use some of the research that I've been doing over the years on presidential elections and putting it into a story where a an American born Taiwanese American who is when sent back to Taiwan in the third grade because the mother didn't trust the American education system. He is now a Buddhist, a vegetarian, a dentist, lives at home because his mother insists on it, but he's a sexual guy. He's not a nerd. He wants his independence, but he can't quite get away from his mother. And for an Asian male, there are expectations of you that you have to fulfill by your parents, and his mother certainly has many expectations. His name is Dr. Mickey Hsu. He's a dentist. His father has separated from his mother, and he lives, as many Taiwanese entrepreneurs do, in China. The father lives in Beijing, and he has made some contacts with the communist government. And the father has some expectations and demands from his son also. So Mickey is caught in the middle, and it's going to result in him moving to Iowa to start a presidential campaign, although he's never run for office ever in his life. And I see that the conflict comes from the veteran Chinese American and Asian American community who regret that he is getting into this race and he might make a fool of himself. And in fact, he does at the beginning. And he's going to hurt the chances of all Asian American politicians to move forward. He's got his mother's expectation that he marry a nice Chinese girl and start producing grandchildren. And he's got his father's expectation and the trouble his father's gotten into by taking money from China to fund this campaign. So the conflict I see is that a Buddhist vegetarian moves to Iowa to try to win the votes of the most Caucasian, the whitest state of any of the 50s that are voting in the primaries, and certainly the most influential because in Iowa is where the weeding out of the candidates begins. So this Buddhist vegetarian has to win over Iowa evangelicals and cattlemen. My setting is the Iowa State Fair. It's a huge state fair, and although I've never been to it, as a child, I did go quite often to the Texas State Fair, so I know what goes on at a state fair. And Mickey's initial foray into the campaign is setting up a free dental check at the Iowa State Fair. Later on, when parents copy the 1968 campaign of Eugene McCarthy and start sending their children there to be volunteers, then you have more opportunities for conflict amongst the young kids themselves. Some are from very rich families and some are not, combining with the Iowa small communities where they are volunteering in. And Mickey's drive is, I think, to experiment sexually. So he has partners, girlfriends that kind of come in and out every 2 or 3 episodes as he's kind of searching for his mate while doing the campaign. Although it's quirky and a fantasy, I believe that 2020 is going to be a year when Americans are going to be seriously looking at their candidates and realizing that the presidential election has consequences. And I think that some of the issues and some of the campaign ideas that Dr. Mickey is going to bring up are ideas that Americans can consider and reject, but at least they're considering them as we're leading into this election year. And I think that it gives it a built-in audience of people seeing this candidate who is advocating Asian values, which is more money into education, more money into infrastructure, more schooling for kids than just the regular school. In Asia, kids go to art lessons, language lessons, math lessons, science lessons after school before they go home and start doing their regular school homework. So education just takes up so much of a child's time when they're growing up in Asia, but they're used to it. It's just part of the system, and there's not a lot of complaints. I believe that somebody that is looking for an Asian audience, such as HBO Asia or Showtime, would be interested in it because there's the opportunities for a pop star in South Korea or in Taiwan to be involved in the show and promoted within their country, which would result in tens of thousands of people from that country watching the show to see their star taking out of its element and acting in this serial program. For a long time, living in Taiwan was a hindrance. If you want to make it in Hollywood, and it's probably still true, you need to move to Hollywood. But in the last 7 years, there's been more producers and agents and maybe guys of questionable reputations from Hollywood and Shanghai that are coming through Taiwan and looking for stories that they say that they want to pitch to people such as Arnold Schwarzenegger and Tom Cruise. So I've been here 32 years. So finally, I kind of have outlived the concept of living in Asia, you're too out of touch, to now living in the time when living in Asia and being able to write realistic Asian characters is a benefit for me. I was influenced growing up by watching the West Wing, which had a naturalistic setting. There was a short-lived television series called Tanner 88, which was about a fictional senator running for president. Robert Redford's movie, The Candidate. The television show Monk, because of his flaws, influenced me as in creating the character Mickey, as well as Woody Allen. In some ways, I see Mickey as an Asian Woody Allen, especially in the early movies where he was highly sexually charged and frustrated, that type of character. So I believe that I have a story world that will be interesting and that's relevant leading into the 2020 election. I have a character who can be expanded and added on layers to his personality with a mother and a father. He has conflicts, he has goals, and there are stakes that if he fails, first of all, his father is at threat, as well as all Asian American politicians fail if Mickey's campaign to run for the presidency and compete in the Iowa caucus is a failure. I look forward to your comments, and I will rewrite and revise future pitches based on your comments. But I thank you for your time, and I've very much enjoyed the course. Thank you.
That was excellent. Let's bring it back up.